The rain fell in heavy sheets, drumming against the roof like a warning. Inside the dimly lit living room, her small hands clutched the edge of the sofa, knuckles white, trembling. Every creak of the old wooden floor sent her heart racing, a frantic rhythm of fear that matched the storm outside. She knew he was coming. She had heard the slurred voice through the cracked door before, one step closer, one shout away from shattering whatever fragile piece she had left. Through the blur of rain-streaked windows, headlights cut jagged lines across the yard. But they weren't his. No, these lights moved differently, purposefully, with a steady pulse, almost like a heartbeat of someone who knew exactly why they were here. Her breath caught as the smell of gasoline and leather seeped through the walls. Engines roared like a chorus of thunder, echoing in her chest, and a strange hope flickered in the pit of her stomach. She remembered the promises whispered late at night when tears fell silently into her pillow. She remembered thinking that nobody could hear her cries, nobody would believe her. But now, the sound of engines told a different story, one where she wasn't alone, where someone, or something, was coming to fight back. The doorknob rattled. A stumble, a curse, and the unmistakable scent of alcohol hit her nose. He had arrived. Her stepfather, staggering and unpredictable, was exactly what she had feared all her life. Her heart slammed against her ribs as he lurched forward, the shadow of menace stretching across the room like a living thing. And then, through the thunder of rain and engines, a voice cut through the tension, a low, commanding growl that made her spine straighten despite the fear. Nobody touches her. Outside, a dozen chrome bikes glinted under the stormy night, lined up like sentinels. Each rider sat tall, leather jackets slick with rain, eyes hidden behind reflective visors. The roar of engines wasn't just noise, it was a warning, a signal that justice had arrived in a way that couldn't be bargained with or ignored. Her chest tightened with disbelief and hope. Could they really protect her? Were these strangers about to change everything in one night? The door creaked again, louder this time. He was closer. And the bikers were waiting. Her name was Lily. Into the world, she seemed like any ordinary 17-year-old, quiet, polite, and polite enough to fade into the background. But behind closed doors, her life was a storm she could never escape. Her mother had tried for years to shield her, but the scars of fear ran too deep. Her stepfather, a man who once smiled for cameras at family gatherings, had become a shadow that loomed over every corner of their home. Alcohol fueled his rage, and words became weapons, leaving invisible bruises that never healed. School offered little reprieve. Teachers noticed her quietness but dismissed it as shyness. Friends had tried reaching out, but she learned to hide her fear behind practiced smiles and hurried excuses. Even her mother, who loved her fiercely, had grown silent in the face of his intimidation. Lily often whispered into pillows, hoping the walls would listen, hoping someone, anyone, would come for her. Each night followed the same terrifying rhythm, the clink of bottles, the slurred mutterings, the sudden crash of objects thrown in drunken fury. She learned to anticipate the storm, to duck, to freeze, to stay invisible. The fear became a constant companion, a heavy weight pressing her into herself. She began to doubt if help existed beyond these walls. The world outside seemed vast but indifferent, a place where cries went unheard and promises of protection were empty. Her stepfather's power wasn't only physical. It was psychological, a relentless pressure that eroded confidence and hope. He would taunt, threaten, and manipulate, and her mother, once vibrant and strong, was now quiet, cautious, afraid. Lily often caught her mother staring at the ceiling at night, a silent plea for a miracle that never seemed to come. And yet, even in the darkest moments, Lily had one fragile, stubborn spark of belief, that justice existed somewhere, that someone might see her, hear her, and act. That belief had almost faded, buried beneath years of fear, but tonight, that spark would meet its match. Little did Lily know, beyond the walls of her small, rain-soaked home, a group of men who lived by their own code of honor were already aware of her suffering. These bikers weren't vigilantes seeking fame or revenge, they were guardians who acted when the system failed, men who had made it their mission to protect the innocent and punish those who preyed on the helpless. Stories of their deeds had whispered through communities, tales of loyalty, courage, and an unyielding sense of justice. And now, their paths had crossed with hers. Fate, or perhaps instinct, had drawn them to her doorstep. They had heard the whispers of abuse, seen the cracks in the walls of her world, and decided that tonight, she would no longer be invisible. Tonight, the fear that had defined her life for years was about to collide with a force that refused to back down. Lily didn't yet know who they were. She didn't know the roaring engines waiting outside. But deep inside, something stirred, a trembling hope, fragile yet undeniable, that someone, finally, would stand for her when no one else could. The night tightened around Lily like a vice. Inside, her stepfather's staggering movements grew more erratic, fueled by drink and anger. He kicked a chair, sending it clattering across the floor, and muttered threats that made her stomach churn. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward her, every gust of wind against the windows a whisper of danger. Her mother tried to intervene, stepping cautiously between Lily and the looming figure, but his glare sliced through the room like ice. "Don't think I won't," he slurred, voice cracking, before laughter took over, a cruel, hollow sound that reverberated through her chest. Fear coiled around her heart like a living thing, tightening with every passing second. Lily backed into the corner, hands pressed against her ears, trying to block out the combination of shouts and crashes. Her stepfather's strength had grown over the years, not just from alcohol, but from years of controlling every moment, eroding their courage until even small acts of defiance seemed impossible. Tonight, his presence was suffocating, and it felt as though the walls themselves had turned against her, closing in. The clock ticked mercilessly, each second amplifying her terror. She knew she couldn't escape, every exit was blocked by his unpredictable movement, and the storm outside made fleeing impossible. The hopelessness was overwhelming, and for the first time in years, Lily's fragile hope began to waver. She whispered a silent plea, a prayer into the darkness, "Someone, anyone, please come." And then she heard it, a low, distant hum that didn't belong to the storm. At first, she thought her imagination was betraying her, but the sound grew louder, steadier, unmistakable, engines. Powerful, thunderous, and controlled, cutting through the chaos like a promise. Her heart leapt. Could it really be them? Could someone finally be coming for her? Her stepfather didn't notice yet, lost in his own drunken rage. He swung his arm toward the shattered remnants of a chair, shouting words too harsh to repeat, too cruel to forget. But beyond the walls, the night was already shifting. A dozen shadows moved in unison, engines roaring like a tidal wave ready to break. Their presence wasn't just a warning, it was a declaration. For the first time that night, Lily felt a tremor of hope, sharp and electrifying. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm about to hit inside, a reckoning her stepfather had never imagined. And as the engines approached, a chill ran down his spine, though he didn't know it yet, his control over this house, over Lily, was about to end. The rumble started faintly at first, a distant heartbeat that pulsed through the rain-soaked night. Then it grew louder, sharper, impossible to ignore. Lily's chest tightened as she pressed her face against the window, eyes wide with disbelief. One by one, the bikers emerged from the darkness, their silhouettes cutting through the sheets of rain like shadows of justice. Chrome gleamed under the pale streetlights, droplets of water cascading down the curves of motorcycles built for speed and power. Engines roared as they aligned in perfect formation outside the house, the sound echoing through the neighborhood like a storm that could not be tamed. It wasn't chaos, it was controlled, deliberate, and terrifyingly beautiful. Each rider sat tall, leather jackets gleaming, visors reflecting the flickering lights, and in that moment, Lily realized these were not just strangers. They were a force, a brotherhood bound by loyalty, courage, and an unshakable sense of justice. She had never seen anything like it. The sheer presence of the bikers was overwhelming, a cinematic display of strength and unity that made her heart surge with hope. She could feel their intent through the walls, like a pulse syncing with her own frantic heartbeat. Every instinct told her to run, to hide, but now she had a different instinct, to believe that someone finally had her back. Her stepfather stumbled toward the door, slurring threats, oblivious to the storm gathering outside. And then, like a scene from a movie she never thought she'd be in, the lead biker stepped forward. Helmet in hand, rain dripping down his broad shoulders, he spoke with a calm authority that sliced through the fear. "Tonight, this ends." The bikers didn't enter yet, they didn't need to. Their presence alone was a warning. Their engines growled in unison, a low, vibrating threat that vibrated through the floorboards and the walls. Neighbors peered from behind curtains, sensing that something extraordinary was unfolding, a battle not just of fists, but of courage, honor, and moral justice. Inside, Lily felt a warmth spread through her chest, dissolving years of fear into something fragile yet undeniable, hope. She whispered her thanks to the rain, to the universe, to the unknown strangers outside who had come for her. Her stepfather's laughter faltered as the biker's leader stepped closer to the door, a shadow in the storm, a presence that refused to be ignored. His eyes, obscured by dark visors, held no malice, only an unshakable certainty that he would not allow harm to come to an innocent child. And with that certainty, Lily felt something she hadn't felt in years, a sense that she might finally be free from the nightmare that had defined her life. The engines revved again, louder this time, like the growl of a lion warning all predators. The guardians had arrived. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm about to descend inside the house. Lily's trembling hands found her mother's, squeezing tightly. For the first time in a long time, she felt the fear recede, replaced by the electric surge of hope, courage, and the promise of justice that couldn't be denied. And then, as if on cue, the door shook under the impact of justice itself, signaling the beginning of the reckoning. The door slammed open with a force that made the room tremble. Rainwater cascaded inside, drenching the floor as the bikers filed in, engines still growling outside like the distant rumble of a storm refusing to be ignored. Lily's stepfather froze, his drunken bravado faltering as he faced a dozen pairs of unyielding eyes hidden behind reflective visors. The air was electric, thick with tension, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. "Step aside," the leader's voice was calm, yet every word carried the weight of authority, of a promise that this house would no longer be a prison. Lily clutched her mother's hand, feeling the tremor of hope in her own chest. For the first time in years, she saw fear mirrored back at the man who had terrorized her life. He laughed nervously, a brittle, broken sound. Who are you?" he slurred, staggering backward. "We're the ones who keep promises when the system won't," the leader replied. "And tonight, your reign ends." His words were a hammer striking an invisible anvil. The stepfather lunged, fueled by a mix of alcohol and desperation, but the bikers moved as one, a fluid, practiced machine. Two blocked the door, two flanked the corners, and the leader stepped forward, not with fists raised, but with the authority of inevitability. Every move was precise, controlled, a demonstration that force was just one tool among many. Lily watched in awe, her fear melting into disbelief. He tried to scream, tried to intimidate, but the presence of the bikers made his words hollow, powerless. One of them grabbed his arm, not violently, but firmly, like a father restraining a wayward child. Another pulled him toward the doorway, guiding him outside where the storm and the roaring engines became witnesses to his humiliation. "You've hurt the innocent for too long," the leader said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "And now, the consequences are yours alone." Outside, neighbors had begun to gather, drawn by the spectacle. They watched as the man, once untouchable in his home, was confronted by a force he could neither deny nor defy. The bikers didn't need to shout, their presence spoke louder than any words. The Engine's thunder echoed through the neighborhood, a message of warning to anyone who preyed on the weak. Justice arrives, even when the world turns its back. Inside, Lily felt tears streaming down her face, not from fear this time, but from relief, from the overwhelming surge of safety and vindication. Her mother embraced her, whispering words that had been long overdue. "It's over, Lily. It's finally over." The stepfather stumbled, forced to face the law he had ignored, humiliated, exposed, and powerless. The bikers stood tall, silent guardians who needed no recognition, only the satisfaction of a job done with precision and honor. Each glance exchanged between them spoke volumes, the unspoken bond of men who had come for justice, who would leave before praise could follow. Lily stepped forward cautiously, her small hands shaking, and the leader knelt to meet her eyes. "You're safe now," he said simply. And for the first time in her life, she believed it. Not because of words, but because of the presence, the certainty, the sheer force of those who had come for her when no one else would. The storm outside seemed to fade, leaving the air charged but calm. The injustice that had haunted her life had been confronted, and the house, once a prison, now felt like a sanctuary. And as the bikers mounted their bikes, engines thrumming in unison, Lily realized that sometimes, heroes don't wear capes, they ride in, unstoppable and unwavering, and leave only the echo of justice in their wake. The rain had stopped, leaving the night crisp and quiet, almost reverent. Inside the house, Lily finally allowed herself to breathe. The fear that had clung to her for years loosened its grip, replaced by a fragile, glowing sense of safety. Her mother knelt beside her, hugging her tightly, whispering, "We're free, we're finally free." Through the open door, the bikers mounted their machines, rain-slicked leather glinting in the soft glow of the streetlights. They didn't wait for applause or thanks. Their job was done, their mission fulfilled, and recognition had never been part of their code. With engines revving, they rolled away, leaving behind only the echo of power, protection, and unwavering justice. Lily stepped outside for the first time in what felt like forever. The night smelled of wet asphalt and freedom, and for the first time, she could imagine a life unchained from fear. The horrors of the past hadn't vanished entirely, but the knowledge that someone had come, that someone had stood for her when no one else could, transformed her. The storm that had been inside her for so long was finally stilled. Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder, smiling through tears. "You'll never be alone again, Lily. Not if we can help it." As the distant roar of engines faded into the night, Lily realized something profound: heroes didn't always come in capes. Sometimes, they came on roaring motorcycles, bound by loyalty and honor, ready to fight when the world turned its back. They had given her more than protection, they had given her hope. And in that moment, Lily knew she could face anything. Her heart, once trapped in fear, now beat with courage. She smiled, a real smile, full of life, full of the promise of a future she had never dared to imagine. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe for more powerful, emotional stories. Because sometimes, justice rides in when you least expect it, but it always arrives for those who need it most.